What's up, you guys? Welcome to the first episode of Sunday Sports Talk. And today we're going to be talking about how to draft like a champ in fantasy football. So as we get closer to the football season, we all know that fantasy football is coming up. And now a lot of you play fantasy football but don't know how to draft, or maybe you're a first time player in fantasy football and you're figuring out how to come up with a draft strategy or draft like somebody that's been a little bit more seasoned. My number one rule to first time players and even people that have played maybe once or twice, or you've played regularly and still trying to figure out what's your winning formula. I have one rule that I always follow when it comes to live draft, and it's never let me down. I've always made the playoffs. So before I tell you my number one rule, I'm just going to preface my comments by saying anything can happen in the draft. So draft accordingly, but this is my rule that I always go into with the same mindset no matter what draft I'm in. If I'm in multiple drafts, I still have the same strategy. So my rule in fantasy football, my number one rule that I always follow, is I draft at least 3 running backs in the first 5 rounds, and at least. So I could draft 4 or I could 5 depending on how the board falls, but I always draft 3 just because to me running back is the most important position in fantasy football. There's a lot of turnover in the running back position. A lot of players get hurt, whether it's high level players, or a lot of the high level players get hurt because they get the ball so much. So last year I got burned. First draft pick was Ty Gurley. He didn't get injured but had a horrible season. In another draft I got Adrian Peterson. Obviously, if you guys know his story, he got injured week 2, never came back. And in both of those leagues I still made the playoffs to the semifinals in both of them. If it wasn't for LeGarrette Blount on 4th down with 2 or 3 seconds left in New England's game, for some reason Bill Belichick wanted to run the ball to end the game, and I lost by 0.2 points because of the 2 yards that LeGarrette Blount ran on that play. So definitely wasn't fun. But again, even if you have a bust as your first pick, obviously you're not trying to do that. But if you have a bust running back, if you get 2 or 3, if you get 2 or 3 in the first 5 rounds, those other guys will fulfill that role. So now, why do I draft 3 or at least 3 in the first 5 rounds? So in my leagues, most of the leagues have 2 running backs in a flex position. So I usually like to start 3 running backs, ideally, unless one of my receivers has like a great matchup that I see potential in. So what I do is I usually have 3 workhorse backs. They're interchangeable. I'm iffy on grabbing the backups. I mean, it's nice, but grabbing the backups for the main running backs I have, I don't do it a lot unless it's completely necessary and that person has like an injury history that we know of. Like, for example, last year Jamal Charles, you drafted him, you wanted to draft West or Ware, and if they have an injury history, then yes, drafting a backup definitely is something that you want to do, because as soon as they go down, everybody in the league is going to put their waiver claims in for the backup if he is a free agent. So you don't want to lose out on that. But you don't want to go into the season thinking that your top back is going to get hurt. So I usually hoard running backs on my roster. And again, as I'm telling you, it's a scarce resource. As the season goes along, more people, running backs get injured. Again, running backs get injured a lot. And near the mid to end point of the season, especially before the trade deadline, people are looking for running backs. Looking, trade requests. So always have that in your back pocket. Always think about drafting a running back. Receivers are a dime a dozen. Obviously, you have your Antonio Browns, Odells, Julios. But after that first tier receiver, the receivers below, it's kind of hit or miss. So those, you could find good receivers late. Quarterbacks, I mean, get them. Might get 1 in the first 5 rounds or 2. I've done that before. Last year I drafted Drew Brees and Tom Brady. Tom Brady obviously was suspended for the first 4 games, and we only could start 1 quarterback. Now, people are asking me, why would you do that? I received multiple trade requests because when Tom Brady came back, he was lighting it up. Obviously, was an MVP candidate. So Drew Brees was kind of expendable. So either one I could have traded for a top caliber player. I ended up keeping both because just in case anything crazy occurred, I have both of them. So plus I wouldn't want to power up somebody else's team by giving them Tom Brady or Drew Brees when they had last year like Cam Newton or somebody like that. So again, my number one rule, at least three running backs in the first 5 rounds. See how it works for you guys on your first time playing or the second time play or whatever, however many times you guys have played fantasy football. Check it out and see how it works for you this season. And I can guarantee you, the more high quality running backs that you draft, all the other stuff will come later, like a receiver, quarterback, whatever. You could get receivers. Again, receivers are a dime a dozen. You could get those whenever you want. And again, you could use this as trade bait too. Say none of your running backs got injured, and you have maybe 2 running backs that are like starting, that are sitting on your bench, and you can't start them because your other running backs are starting and putting up good numbers. You could trade them for a good receiver, a good tight end, a good quarterback. And that's because people are scrambling. Everybody is worried about filling their starting roster as soon as they draft. Like, okay, I need to get 2 running backs, 2 receivers, a quarterback, tight end, defense, kicker, all in that order. No, I go straight for the running backs. And even as I'm telling you this, I'm sure that there's people that's in my league that are watching this video. It just depends on who you draft, right? So I'm giving my secret away, but most people that have played with me, the leagues I'm in right now, I've played in for multiple years, so they know my tactic. And it works every year. So, or I make the playoffs every year. So check it out, see how it works for you guys. If you like this, make sure you hit the like button. Again, every Sunday I will be doing a Sunday sports talk, whether it's about fantasy football tips or my Philadelphia Eagles, or boxing, MMA, whatever. Definitely have a lot to say about the Floyd and Connor, so maybe I'll talk about that next week on Sunday. But make sure you guys hit the like button, subscribe below, hit the notification icon so you get the notification when I upload videos. And I am chucking this one up. Hopefully you guys, I see you next video. And all right, have a great Sunday.